And welcome back. Today we are going to talk about our Impressionism pastel project. And what we're going to use for that is some soft chalk pastels like these here. And what we're going to be doing is we are going to be taking a small square like this one here that is part of a larger image like this. And we are going to be kind of doing this as a big group project. So this particular one is A2, which is this square right there. So each student in class is going to get their own square, and they are responsible for drawing that particular square for whatever image your class is assigned to, and that's going to come together as one very large drawing. So all of these are 6 by 5, so they're all 9 inches. So they're going to be pretty big when they're done. And it's going to look pretty awesome. So the way this is going to work is we are going to start out by going to find the square that is yours. So this particular one is A2. If you look down in the rest of the module, you will find that there is a list for each class, and each person's name has a number next to it. So you're going to go to the back table and you're going to find yours. You're also going to get this little square piece of paper that is the same color as the paper that we're going to be using for the actual project. And with that, we're going to draw on it. Now you can draw with a white colored pencil or with a regular pencil. It does not matter, just whatever works out best for the way that you're going to see it. So we're going to take this and we're going to draw, not the whole thing, because we don't want to practice it with real itty bitty tiny marks. Impressionism has, marks that are fairly large. So in our case, we're going to be looking at like 1 inch to 1.5 inches for our marks at most, depending on what your image is. So we want to draw this a little bit larger so that way we can practice it the way that we're actually going to do it. So I'm gonna basically just take this little square right here in the corner. So I'm gonna say, all right, I've got a big section that comes out here like this. I've got this yellow little ball like this here that comes out, and I'm gonna draw the bit that's up above it here. So it doesn't need to be specific, because ultimately we're going to go over this entire thing. Well, not this, because this is just a practice to kind of get the hang of making the marks. But for our actual drawing, we're going to cover the whole thing. So that pencil drawing that you have is going to get covered up by the chalk pastels. All right, so with Impressionism, it is all about leaving the brush strokes. So if we look at, and primarily Impressionism, we're going to know it from Vincent van Gogh paintings. Starry Night, the Lilacs, Starry Night on the Rhone, has self-portraits, the 3 bedrooms. So those are the things where you see a lot of the brush strokes left. In this particular one, this is the water lilies. You can see down here he's got a lot of very small little marks going along there. So it's a brush stroke is put down and it's not really blended together. So that's kind of what we're looking for. We want to leave the marks. We don't want to do a whole lot of blending. We want to leave it kind of as is. On Starry Night, when you look at it, and even on this one here, if you look over in the corner, the painting isn't done all the way to the edge. And that's where a lot of people are really surprised. Starry Night, it has a big border like this. Usually when you see an image of it, it's cropped way in. But if we look at this here, down here in the corner, it's bare canvas. There's not a primer underneath it. It's just raw kind of brown canvas, linen canvas, and then it's just the brush strokes put down on top of it. So what I'm going to do is I am going to take this little one right here, and I'm going to look at the colors that I need. And now we don't necessarily have all of the colors that we have for the painting, and they don't mix as well as actual oil paint does. So we're going to do a lot of mixing on the actual paper itself. So I'm going to do this little yellow ball here, and I'm going to start by kind of making some marks. This is probably a little bigger than what it needs to be. That's okay. So we're going to make some marks in here. So right now this is nice bright yellow. If we look at that, it's got a little bit of a dullness to it. So we're going to grab our white, and just like what we do with colored pencils when we build up layers to blend colors together, we're going to do the same thing with these pastels. And it may blend together a good bit. That's okay. And we don't necessarily need to use the biggest point, so we're going to do this. All right, and then we're going to come over here. So we got some violet kind of running this way. This is kind of a lighter lavender color. So we're going to come this way with our violet like this. Again, we're going to go back into the white. Probably going to use a good bit of white for a lot of these. So we're going to take this, blend this together, and depending on how light it is, it might actually be better to put a white down first and then go over the top of it with some color. And if you do this right, it's going to take you a good bit of time to get the hang of it and to get the material put down. What we don't want to see is to take the pastel and then just go grind the color in like this and get it all over and just be like, I'm done, I did it in 5 minutes. That's not cool. We don't want that to happen. You know, if you're doing this right, you're blending the colors, it's going to take you on a 9x9 piece of paper, it's going to take you a couple days, because we want this to look really nice, because ultimately too, because you are working with the individuals that are around you, your colors kind of have to match up. So, because we want this to look like one big cohesive piece. All right, so you're going to have to do a little bit of work. Look at that list that's in the module and see who all you are going to be working with. If you're lucky, you're down in the corner and you only have to deal with really 2 or 3 other people. If you're out in the middle, you've got people all around you, so you've got to do a little bit of extra work. So this is just kind of a practice to kind of get the feel for how all of this is going to go. I don't actually need to do this whole thing. I just want to make sure that I understand how the materials are going to make the marks, to see how the colors are going to blend and how things are all going to work out. All right, so this, like I said, this is just practice, so we can put these aside for now. I'm satisfied with this. I understand how these work, and after a little bit of work, you will too. So then what you're going to do is you're going to take your drawing, or your little square that you got, and you are going to take that, you are going to draw it out onto this large piece of paper. So I'm looking at this one here, and again, if you want to, you can take this and you can divide this up a little further and make a smaller grid out of it. But I've got this here, and again, it's just going to be real loose, just kind of light, so I get the gist of where the colors are going to be. You know, it's going to move around a little bit as I work on it, just because that's kind of the nature of how things work. So we got this here, got my yellow ball, kind of halfway point, get that in there. Get a little bit of a bright green coming down here. Again, really loose drawing. Doesn't have to be a whole lot of detail. It's just kind of showing me where things are going to be on the page, and that's kind of vertical lines there. And here's kind of my big pink thing. So I'm going to take this, and then I'm going to start to apply my colors down. Pastels are messy. If you're right-handed, I would greatly suggest that you start in the left-hand side and kind of work your way down. If you're left-handed, kind of do the opposite of that. Another way to think about this is you go through, do all of your light colors first, because ultimately putting a lighter color down over the top of a color that already is there might be a little bit tricky, because this was the same thing with the tooth of the paper that we've talked about long ago. Once you get material down, you're putting a pastel down, which is a very soft chalk. It's going to be more difficult for it to adhere to itself. So you might want to get some of those lighter colors put down first, and then work your way to those darker colors. So that ultimately what you're going to do, now this is a different picture from a previous iteration of this project, but idea's still the same. So this is from the chapel from Starry Night. So you're going to get your full image is going to be covered up, and you're going to have, it's going to match up with all of your partners around either side of it, and you're going to have a nice bright, you know, real powerful looking image. And then once you get to this, you know, line it up with the people on either side of you and make sure that everything works out. You might have to go in and kind of work that edge to get those colors to match up. If it's a little bit off, you know, that's okay. But everybody's going to have the same colors to work with, so ideally we're looking and thinking about the same way, and the colors are going to match up. So good luck, and hope it turns out nice.